Some good news in 2020, but with a slightly bitter taste, Kieran. The release of Kylie Moore-Gilbert from an Iranian prison after 2.5 years there, a real relief to her family and friends, and I'm sure to all Australians, but it has not come without a price. This appears an ugly hostage swap, with reports that 3 Iranians accused of terrorism in Thailand have been returned home. Here is Kylie Moore-Gilbert on Iranian footage in uncomfortable footage upon her release, describing the fact she went to a Zionist country on the way through rather than saying Israel. As her statement says, it was a long and traumatic ordeal. Scott Morrison, he did the round of TV interviews on this morning, but did not want to discuss the hostage swap scenario at all.
Any suggestion that there's been prisoners released in Australia or anything like that is completely false. But I would urge those that, that we have to deal with these matters sensitively because sadly, I suspect this and there are many other cases around the world. Our officials need to be able to get on and do their job to secure the release of Australians in these situations.
I think Australians probably will want to know if we've done a prisoner of swap and we've released actual terrorists.
Well, I just said that there's been no one released in Australia.
But overseas, if terrorists have been released
in Australia. Well, again, Carl, I'm just not going to go into it.
At a later press conference in the morning, the PM said it would not be in Australians' interests in future to reveal such detail.
You would both be aware about how this is being reported in Iran. And it says an Iranian businessman and 2 Iranian citizens who were detained abroad on baseless charges were exchanged for a dual national spy. I know you can't speak directly to this case, but don't prisoner exchanges encourage rogue states to take hostages?
Well, Chris, again, I'll give the same answer I just gave to the previous question. And the Australian government doesn't acknowledge or confirm any such arrangements regarding any release of any other persons in any other places. They would, if other people have been released in other places, they're decisions of sovereign governments in those places. There are no people who have been held in Australia who have been released.
You haven't acknowledged any linkages, and you've said release of prisoners elsewhere is a matter for those sovereign states. So let me put it another way. Why should the Australian people not be concerned or have any security concerns about the release of at least 2 Iranian men in Thailand who were convicted of terrorism charges? And given that those men were part of an attempt to assassinate Israeli diplomats in Bangkok, have there been any consultations with the government of Israel about this matter, and have any concerns been expressed by the government of Israel to Australia about the release of these men?
Well, I'll leave it to the Foreign Minister whether she's received any information from Israel on that matter. I'm not aware of any that has come to Australia in my capacity. But my answer is the same as to what I said to you. Where another sovereign state has made a decision about release of prisoners, that's a matter for them. And again, as Australia manages these sensitive issues, the reason we do it so sensitively and ensuring that the safety of Australians and Australia's national interests are not compromised.
Scott Morrison also repeating the line he used on election night last year that he believes in miracles, basically saying this was a miracle.
I've always believed in miracles, and I'm just thankful for this one as well, to see Kylie coming home. She seems to be, in our own conversations, in quite good spirits. But I imagine there's a lot of processing of this to go through yet.
And here's the opposition leader, Anthony Albanese's reaction.
Well, it's an outrage that very clearly the Iranian government has used this situation as effectively a hostage situation. And she was there studying, not doing anything wrong, reporting, doing what academics do. And this is an outrageous act that she was incarcerated at all. One day would have been too many.